We're here in Monte Carlo for the Rendez-Vous de Septembre. For AM Best TV, I'm Richard Banks. And I'm joined now by Carsten Prussog, who's the Chief Executive for Northern Europe for Munich Re. Carsten, welcome.
Hello, Richard. It's good to be here.
So, Carsten, it's been several years now since the reinsurance industry has gathered here in Monte Carlo for the Rendez-Vous. How is it shaping up this year, do you think?
Well, I personally have to say I'm really excited, and all the clients I've met are similarly excited to be in the position to regather, build relationships, invest into relationships after 2 years of pandemic. I think anyway, it is important to have serious discussions about the very challenging and highly uncertain market environment. If you look at the global challenges, war in the Ukraine, certainly climate change, increasing interest rates, this of course is impacting our relationships with our clients. And foremost, the high inflation is something which is on the forefront of our thinking. I think we as Munich Re are extremely well positioned because we have the know-how to find solutions with our clients and can provide stable capacity subject to the right pricing, of course.
Well, right pricing is exactly the point I think that is under discussion a lot. And people are starting to talk a little bit now about a proper, genuine hard market for the first time in many years, one might say. So people may not have experienced that before. What should we expect?
Well, you're right, Richard. The last hard market, probably dating back to 2005 with Katrina, Rita, Wilma, or 2001 with 9/11. We had some regional hard markets in between, like 2011 with the earthquakes in Japan. I think what has to be observed is how strongly the market is moving, given that the reinsurance demand is going up, while the reinsurance capacity is actually rather declining. The second thing I will be observing how consistently the market will be behaving, given that there are different market prices after a prolonged soft market, specifically in Europe, firstly. Secondly, different risk appetites after a couple of years of very volatile experience for some reinsurance markets. And lastly, very different assumptions about the future. As we just talked about the macroeconomics and the inflation, this all has to be factored in. Perhaps lastly, one thing I want to watch is whether there is a real capacity shortages in some specific lines of business.
Risk appetite seems to be a big topic in Monte Carlo this year. A number of companies are rebalancing their underwriting portfolios, perhaps away from Nat Cat. What's your perspective on that?
Well, we have experienced this in the midyear renewals already, that some of the competitors pulled back, and we have seen quite some demand for the capacity. And with that, of course, some upward momentum on the price side. And actually, coming back to capacity shortages, we have seen some of those at the mid-year renewals, for instance, in Florida.
And capacity shortages often speaks to a change in investor appetite. What's the investor appetite for insurance risk at the moment like?
Well, as you know, there has been a couple of more volatile years. And investors and analysts are pushing reinsurance companies. We as Munich Re are still convinced that natural catastrophes is something which we can properly write because we have the modeling and the adequate know-how to do so, and we can prove. And also, given our size, we have a proper balanced portfolio and global diversification, differently than potentially smaller players, where one loss can lead to an accumulation in their P&L.
So Munich Re, like AM Best, is a signatory of the UN Principles for Sustainable Insurance. Now, we've seen in the changes in the geopolitical environment out there, potentially presenting some challenges to the ESG strategies. To what degree do you think that is going to be an issue?
Well, as you know, Richard, the PSI are more strategic guidance and orientation, and this should not be interfered with by any tactical topics. Personally, actually, I'm convinced that the current geopolitical situation may even emphasize or accelerate a shift towards more sustainable energies. We as Munich have outlined a very clear climate strategy with clear climate goals in insurance. And we will stick to this strategy and commit to executing against it.
Carsten, thank you very much indeed for joining us today.
Lovely to see you, Richard. Thank you.
For AM Best TV, I'm Richard Banks.